you love Halloween, then you are going to love this video because there are a ton of Halloween projects in here and a lot of them you can do with Dollar Tree supplies. I'm Jamie, the crafty DIY guy. Welcome back to my channel. Right, everybody, you asked for it and I have provided you with a compilation video of some of my best Halloween projects. I'm super excited about these. If you are one of my OGs, one of my long-term subscribers, thank you guys so much for being here. OG just means that you're a part of my original gang. Thank you so much for being here. And if you are brand new to the channel, or maybe you're one of my newer subscribers, maybe you haven't seen some of these Halloween DIYs, I hope that you guys all enjoy those, and I look forward to bringing you some new projects very soon. All right, guys, let's get into that video. And for this first project, I'm going to be using one package of these Jackolantern glitter thingies from Dollar Tree, and then also I'm going to use one package, or at least half of a package, of one of these. I also have this great twine. It's a blue and white twine. I didn't want to use regular Dollar Tree twine because it frays so bad, and I'm going to be threading my pumpkins with a embroidery needle, so I needed something that was just going to be a little easier to work with, so that's why I'm using this blue twine instead. So the first thing I'm going to do is take one of my needles out. I'm going to find the longest one that I can get because I am going to be threading through with those pumpkins. And what I'm going to basically want to do is make sure that, you know, the thread and everything that I'm using obviously is going to be nice and sturdy. And that's why I like working with this blue and white striped twine. I take a little bit of hot glue and I just put it at the end of my twine. I let it kind of cool off just a wee little bit. And I take my fingers and just real quickly go through there and just kind of tighten that up. And that almost creates a wire type effect. And it makes it really easy for threading a needle and for threading your beads and everything. So I went ahead and doubled my string, and now I'm going to take my jack-o'-lanterns off of the stick. Now, you're going to save that stick because you can see here the needle is not going to go all the way through. But if you use that stick and push it all the way through, you will be able to now thread your pumpkins through. So once again, just kind of keep pulling it through, and then all of a sudden you've got your jack-o'-lantern on the twine, on the string. Now I'm going to go in and I am going to add some black beads just to kind of mix it up a little bit. I decided here at the last minute that I was going to do that. So now I remembered and I went ahead and grabbed 3 of the beads. I'm putting those on that thread as well. Then I'm going to take the smaller jack-o'-lantern that I originally was going to use, and rather than going sideways on this, I decided to just go directly down the middle because I thought that that would kind of be a cool contrast. And then I'm just kind of tightening it up and keeping that thread nice and tight as I work my way through. Now I'm going to go ahead and add 3 more beads. Then I'm going to add a larger pumpkin again, kind of using that same technique. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually this time use the stick first. I'm going to take the stick, I'm going to poke a hole through it with the stick that it was kind of skewered on. And then once I do that, I am then going to go back through with my needle. And I'm going to start the needle through there, and then I'm going to use the stick. That one created a nice big old hole there, but not to worry, it's going to cover up. So now I'm just pushing that needle through and then threading it through once again, adding a couple more beads again, making sure that that string is nice and tight. When you double over the string like that, you're going to want to make sure that each time your string is coming out nice and smooth and nice and flat. You may have to adjust it just a little bit. So 3 more beads, and then you're just going to kind of keep repeating this process until you have the desired length of your garland. Now, for this particular garland, I am not going to use this for my fireplace. This is just going to be a garland that I'm going to use on a tiered tray. So it's not going to be quite as long as a garland that you might have for a fireplace, for example. But the beauty of this is you could obviously make this as long as you wanted, and I will show you soon what I end up doing with this garland. Now, my next project, I'm going to be using actually some of these leftover pumpkins, and I have this adorable blue pickup truck that a friend of mine, a subscriber of mine, picked up for me at a thrift store. She saw this and she thought that I would absolutely love it, and she was so right, because I have used this little guy on my tiered tray so many different times, and I love to be able to decorate it up for the holidays. Now, I have these little tiny bales of hay, and I have 3 of them that are left over from another project. One of them, or 2 of them, I should say, are already kind of glued together. So I'm going to just kind of work with that. And I'm just kind of playing around with the placement of the hay, because I'm kind of envisioning this, this navy blue pickup truck, which of course navy is my favorite color. And now I'm just kind of working it around and trying to figure out the best way to glue these pumpkins to the haystacks, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to glue the hay or the pumpkins to the truck itself, because I like to use different things for the truck. I want to be able to decorate the truck up for Christmas and for, probably not for Halloween, because that's kind of what I'm doing now. Halloween, fall, this is definitely transitional enough. So now that I've got the hay kind of finally figured out, I'm going to add some hot glue to the top. And I'm going to take one of my glittery pumpkins and just glue it right on top of that haystack. And then for these, I'm just going to adjust them just a little bit again. And then once again, just kind of figure out the best placement for the pumpkin. Again, I'm not gluing anything to the truck itself. I'm gluing only using the pumpkins or the haystacks themselves. So I had to refill my glue gun there. And now that I've got some more glue on there, I can glue the second pumpkin in place. And then I'm just going to keep stacking these until I've got the design that I like. And this is so cute, and it's going to be the perfect addition to my tiered tray, which I will show you in a little while. Right, in this next project, these are the coolest little bags. These are treat bags that you can pick up at Dollar Tree. It's a 4-pack, and the great thing about this is that the fabric is burlap. And I loved this green twine that I picked up on Amazon, and I had this leftover pillow that with all this great stuffing. So I am going to make some little pumpkin pillows, and we're going to do 2 different projects with these. So the first thing you're going to do, of course, is take all of your fabric out of there. You're going to put the twine along to the side. I am going to use the twine as well as the green there, and you'll see why in a little while. But just put that aside, make sure it's nice and close by. And then these little pumpkins are so great. I love this. The fabric is nice and soft. If you can find these, I highly recommend that you get these, because they are such a great quality, and I really think that there's a lot of fun things you can do. So I'm just going to take some of my pillow stuffing here, and I'm just going to stuff my pumpkin bag with it. And when I'm doing this now, I'm also making sure that I'm getting down in those corners of that bag, because I do want my little pumpkin sacks here to be nice and full and fluffy. And again, just kind of, working in all the little nooks and crannies and all the corners, and stuffing a surprisingly a lot of stuffing in each one of these. And, I had to kind of keep peeling it out in pieces there. But as I'm doing this, it's really starting to take shape, and I really loved the way that this was starting to look. After that was done, then I took my green twine and I just tied it in a simple bow. I'm adding a decent amount of hot glue here at the top, and I am just going to glue it right at the top of my pumpkin stems there. I did also take my scissors and kind of fan those out, or, cut them to kind of make them more strip-like. And I think that they are so adorable as is, but you can also do something a little bit different with them. So now I'm going to take 2 of my Dollar Tree wood pallets. And what I'm going to do is just add a generous amount of hot glue there to each one of the planks. And then I'm going to glue them together like this. And this will actually hold really, really quickly, which is really nice. After that's done, then I'm going to take some antiquing wax, and I'm just taking a very little bit. And I'm just kind of going over the decking or the pallets with these, because we're going to make a little stand for our pumpkin family, or at least for some of the family members. And I'm going to go ahead and just, again, cover this. I'm not too worried about the color and making it super even. This is more honestly about just having a kind of a rustic palette for these to rest on. And this is something that's actually going to go on my mantle, because in this video today, we're going to be not only doing some tiered tray items, but also some items for the mantle. So I'm going to clean up my little work surface here, make sure that my palette is good to go. And now all I'm going to do is take my 3 pumpkins, and I'm just going to start placing them on the pallet themselves. Now, to do that, I'm just kind of eyeballing it here, just kind of trying to figure out, you know, what I think is the best option for these guys. And once I kind of have an idea here of what they're going to do, or what I'm going to do, I'm going to add some hot glue right in the center there. I'm going to do it on these first 2 pallets in the center, and then I'm going to grab one of my little pumpkin guys. I'm going to squish it down into that hot glue, just making sure that we've got nice and solid and good and firm contact there. That way it will stand up on its own, kind of like you see here. And then we're going to take pumpkin number 2, kind of repeat the same thing. Going to add some more hot glue. We're going to fill up the hot glue gun, because it ran out of hot glue on me there. So I have the smallest little sticks. I need to get the big giant sticks that Surebonder sells. But anyway, I've got lots of the small sticks though. So now that I've got the second pumpkin glued into place there, and he's just kind of chilling and hanging out and standing up, now I'm going to take the 3rd pumpkin and also add some hot glue once again. I'm going to go ahead and add it to the 2 pieces of the palette, and then just kind of again squish it down and set him up to stand up with the rest of the family. Now, that 4th pumpkin that's off to the side there, I'm going to be using that on my tiered tray later on in the video, and then I'm going to give it, I think, to Mr. Otis as a toy. So we'll see. We'll see. I think it would be fine for him. He doesn't really chew up toys or anything, but it's definitely going to be cute on the tiered tray as well. All right, the next project, this is going to go on the mantle. I'm going to be making a garland. And what I love about this is it's actually really, really easy. This was like a $3 project. I took a strand of these wooden beads that I picked up from Dollar Tree, and then 2 packages of these boo wood pieces. They're not really ornaments because there's no holes or anything in them. But we are going to figure out a way to stick them to our garland. So for the orange paint, I use spray paint. I love spray paint. If you're not a spray paint fan, you want to use chalk paint, by all means, feel free, go for it. I did spray paint both sides of this. And then for these 3, I'm going to spray paint these with my matte black spray paint. And for this, I am just simply taking my Rust-Oleum spray paint again, doing a nice little covering, and we did do the front and the back. I don't know why I keep saying we, maybe it's me and Otis, but I painted the front and the back of each one of these. Now that everything is dry, I'm going to go inside and we're going to take our wooden beads. Now, I did kind of pre-measure this, and I figured out that if I count every 4th bead and start the boos at the 4th bead, I can get all of the boos on the beads. And this sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? And the way I'm going to do that is by using some extra twine. So here you can see me just kind of laying it out, and yes, the boo is upside down, but that's okay. That's okay, boo. And what I'm doing is just really, again, just trying to figure out that spacing. But as I said, I did kind of figure out that it's about every fourth or fifth bead. And whenever I'm doing something like this, I'll always start at the far end of the strand, and then I go to the opposite end of the strand, and then work my way back in the middle. And I do that because I want to, of course, be able to make sure that I have everything evenly spaced out. This garland that is sold at Dollar Tree is 4 feet, and it's certainly a great piece of garland. It's not quite big enough to go across the entire fireplace. If I were to do this again, I would probably buy, 2 more sets of the booze and 2 more, or at least 1 more set of the garland. But I still like the way it worked out. My mantle is still a work in progress, but you'll see it's still really, really cute. All right, so now that I've got everything figured out and placed, it is time to attach the booze to the garland. Now, to do that, all I'm going to do is take my twine. I'm just taking some little pieces of twine, and I'm speeding this up here in warp speed. I'm taking a piece of twine, I'm wrapping it around the beaded garland there, and then I'm adding some hot glue. I'm sticking it down on top, and then I will flip it over and do it the correct way on the other side, or the easier way, I should say. Here you will see what I'm talking about. So you could literally just go straddle across it like this, go right down, and instead of doing it facing you, just put it face down, add your glue, and then take your string or your twine and a pair of scissors, or if you have the finger protectors, which I have a ton of, but I never seem to have them when I'm doing anything. Now you can see how easy this is to attach. These actually work really, really well. And they kind of flow and they kind of sway back and forth with the with the garland itself. So it makes it actually really, really easy to do. So once again, I just took a small piece of twine that I cut. I measured it out as far as the 4th or 5th bead down. And then again, just taking my scissor there, helping me so I don't burn my fingers, and holding that twine back into place until it's glued down. And then where the exclamation point there is on the boo, once again, just taking some twine, and boom, you've got garland that is complete that you can hang on the fireplace mantle. Now, I will be showing you everything I'm doing for the mantle once everything is all done, but we've got more projects to make. I'm definitely into like beaded tassels and garlands and such, and this is just going to be a very easy tassel kind of a thing. Now, for mine, I'm going to use it on the mantle, but I don't think it's going to stay that way. I ended up not really knowing exactly what to do with it. Now, the wreath ring that I'm using there, that is truly just to hold the beads in place so they don't roll all around my table. I didn't have a little plastic dish or anything like that close by, and this was within arm's length, and I grabbed it, and that's what I'm doing. And then I also have some of these black and white beads that were left over. I'm just going to use some of the black beads, and then the twine once again. Now these cute little pumpkins. These are those Dollar Tree wood stickers. I've used these in a couple different projects already. And I'm going to go ahead and just remove the sticker that's on the back of each one of these. And we're going to get those out of the way. And then for the, because I'm using 2 of them, I kind of wanted it to be, a little beefier feeling, if that makes sense, at the end of it. Now, your pumpkins that you're going to be using here, if you choose to use 2 of them like I did, you're going to want them to face the same direction after you remove those ridiculous glue dots. Sometimes those things will not come apart for anything. All right. Now, you see here what I mean, how they have to kind of connect together. And you could either have the orange glittery stem part going forward, or you could reverse it and make it be the other color. Now, because my beads are kind of a plain orange and the glittery orange, I didn't want those to compete with each other. So I'm actually going to glue my plain wood pumpkin on top of the glitter pumpkin. But before I do that, I am going to sandwich my twine between the two. That way this is kind of the anchor of my tassel. So hopefully that makes sense. Now I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that that's probably going to be too thick because I want these to be really, really smooth together. So I'm going to go ahead and just add some hot glue here, but I have some regular Dollar Tree twine that's really close by. So I'm instead going to use that. And then once again, just kind of gluing that twine down like you see me doing here. And then I'm going to take my kind of unfinished pumpkin piece after I add a decent amount of hot glue, and I am going to glue that right down on top of this. And the reason why I wanted to do that is because I'm actually going to be painting that pumpkin. I didn't want to have one side that was going to be glitter and then one side that was just going to be a plain orange. I wanted to be able to, really make this something that was going to be kind of cohesive because, as you know, with a tassel, sometimes they're laying different ways and they don't always match up. So now I'm going to pick out the bead colors that I want, and these random colored full beads that I picked up from Dollar Tree, there's not a consistent sizing among them. You can get like 2 of one color, and then you might get 3 or 4 of another color, and then you might get only 3 large ones or 2 small ones, and it's kind of aggravating. But I'm just going to kind of lay them out in a design or in a pattern that I kind of think is cute and will work well. And then I do have the black beads, so I'm just going to kind of work those in as well. And then I'm literally just going to start at the very beginning of kind of what I laid out. And I'm just going to start threading them with my my twine here. Now I did use that hot glue technique at the end of the twine just to make sure that that was nice and easy to be able to thread through. And again, I'm just going through and just threading out everything. Once that is done, then I'm going to make a very simple tassel for the end of this, and we are done. It is that easy. And then I will show you what I'm going to be doing with this very, very shortly, but we do have a couple more DIYs to do. Now, this DIY is all about the fireplace. So, you know that I have a fireplace that is more decorative right now versus functional. My fireplace needs a new damper. A damper is extremely expensive because my fireplace is over 100 years old. The good news is that my fireplace is extremely sturdy. Now, I found that great set of Halloween lights at Dollar Tree, and because I do have an outlet that's very close to the fireplace, and I have this great vintage suitcase, I stack that in there because I like the height that it gives. My fireplace is a little taller versus kind of even out, and I wanted something that gave it some height, so that's kind of why the vintage suitcase is in there. I have my fireplace grate because I do have plans to get the fireplace fixed at some point. I was hoping to get it done this winter, but that's probably not going to happen. And now I'm just going to take some logs and some lights, and I am just going to start wrapping those lights around with that kind of orange glow and the yellow. It looks like a roaring fire in the fireplace. I love this so, so much. And now it is time to show you what we are going to do with the fireplace mantle and then also with the tiered tray. So on my mantle, I have some great things that I really, really like this vase that I picked up at Goodwill for $6.99. I am going to cover it though. I'm going to cover it with this fabric. I don't want to ruin the vase, of course, because I love it so much. And I am just going to take a tiny bit of hot glue and just glue up the shorter sides of this. I didn't quite cut my fabric piece long enough, and now I'm going to kind of pull my buffalo check fabric in there, and as I'm doing that, I'm also kind of wrapping those shorter ends in with the longer pieces, if that makes sense, just to kind of keep everything wrapped up together and to make sure that we've got a kind of full cohesive look here. And then again, just kind of pulling tight as I'm tucking down through and just making sure that everything is nice and smooth. And I will go through and just kind of play around with it a little bit. This is what it looks like when it's all wrapped. And then I did just go back and add in my olive stem branches. I love these branches. They're green, They're kind of neutral. They kind of look like random little crazy sticks. There's my weird looking glasses in the end of the thing. And then I took these cute, adorable ghosts and replaced them with the candlesticks that were up there. I had the battery operated candlesticks, and I thought that these little ghosts would look so cute on either candlestick. And then I took some of the Dollar Tree garland, I took some of the Dollar Tree lights, and just kind of began to just kind of create my little Halloween environment here. I used the hear no evil, see no evil, speak no evil skeletons. I used my adorable little pumpkin family that I made. I used that beaded tassel that you see now wrapped around the vase. And I'm so happy with the way this turned out. I think it's so cute. I've never decorated my mantle for Halloween before, and I think that this is so much fun. I really love the way that this just turned out, and look how it looks. I pulled the curtains. Obviously, you can still see some daylight coming in back there, but I love the way that this turned out. I think it's super, super cute. I love the blue garland. Now for that tiered tray, this is kind of what the tray is looking like right now. I've still got a couple things I want to do to it. This is kind of near my Cricut station, and I just kind of always decorate this tray up with kind of whatever the season is. And the bottom layer is pretty basic. I've got that sparkle jack-o'-lantern garland that I created. I've got some velvet pumpkins in there just for some filler right now because I need to do some more DIYs for the lower space. The middle space I'm obsessed with. I use the pumpkin, one of the pumpkins from the family. I've got my blue truck with the pumpkins and the hay. I've got a little plant that I picked up from Five Below, or maybe it was Pop Shelf. And then on the top, it still needs some work. I've got that beaded corn that I picked up from Dollar Tree. And then one of my projects from my last video. I'll do a few other little things up there too. But I'm going to use one of these glass jack-o'-lanterns from Dollar Tree. Also, I grabbed a large glass candle. You'll see that I ended up swapping for another candle, and then I had a wick left over from a candle making kit I purchased a couple years ago. Now for my candles, I decided to go with two smaller candles. I didn't have a pot that was quite large enough, so I'm going to take the candles, put them in some water, and then bring it up to a boil. And as you can see, that wax starts to melt. Now this wax is extremely hot and you will get burned, so please be careful when you're doing this. You're going to take your lineman pliers or some sort of pliers that will grip really steadily on that wax. And as you can see here, I'm just pouring it directly into the container. I'm using a pot holder to make sure that I hold it and I balance it. And then I'm putting that hot glass jar away from me where I won't knock it over. I'm using two different colored candles here. It's perfectly fine. It doesn't really matter. And then I'm just pouring those waxes together, and they're going to mix, and they kind of create a cool orange color, which is totally random. If you have any pieces of wax left over, kind of like that piece there, just disregard it, or you can keep your candles boiling for a little while longer. Totally up to you. Now, I just created a splint to hold my wick in place in the center there. By the way, I did add a little bit of hot glue on the bottom of that wick just to make sure it held into place. And check out my little jack-o'-lantern buddy candle. I love it. You obviously trim down that wick to an appropriate length, and this is what he looks like when he's all done. Moving right into project number 2, we are going to grab a set of these Dollar Tree skeleton salad tongs. They're in the Halloween department. And also I grabbed a ace bandage. First thing I'm going to do is take some antiquing wax, and I'm just going to age my skeleton hands just a little bit. I thought they were a little too fancy. And I did this actually with some brown antiquing wax, and then I also went over it with some black chalk paint and literally just rubbing it on like you see there, and then taking a towel and kind of wiping it off. The chalk paint is probably ideal to do first on this because the wax or the antiquing wax will not adhere very good to the plastic because it does kind of have that little bit of that shellac or that shine on it. So if I were you, I would do your dry brush of some black chalk paint first and then go over top of it with your antiquing wax. And once your hands are all dirty, you are then going to take an ace bandage and wrap it around the arms and the hands of your skeleton arms. Now, what I did was just add a little bit of hot glue just to help hold it on. And then as you can see, I'm just wrapping that ace bandage. I'm going a little tighter around the arms, and then I'm going to go a little looser on the hands, and then kind of work my way back down, kind of doing a little bit of a combo wrap, I guess you could say. A little loose, a little tighter, and just making it look like that poor little skinny arm has been broken and is all set up in a ace bandage. And you'll repeat this with both of your skeleton arms. Now, we can't have any mummy hands with clean bandages. So what I'm doing is taking the residual paint that was left over on my brushes when I did the antiquing wax as well as the black chalk paint. And I'm just kind of painting them on and adjusting that bandage a little bit. As you can see, it was slipping just a little bit. And also I'm kind of tearing the ends of it and giving it a more tattered look because I want this to look like they're coming up out of the ground. So go ahead and take your antiquing wax and refill your paintbrushes as you need to, and just kind of dirty up your brushes and your, not your brushes, but your bandages until you have something that kind of looks like these. And then simply just add them to any of your planters or in your yard. They could even go inside like mine are here, and it will look like you've got mummies coming out of your plants. And for my next project, you are going to need one of these glass skulls, or one of these ceramic skulls rather, from Dollar Tree. I picked this up in black. And then also you're going to need a candlestick from Dollar Tree. I took my candlestick out and just painted it black, just using a quick coat of my Rust-Oleum flat black paint. And now I'm just adding some E6000 quick hold to the top of it, as well as a little bit of hot glue just to help hold that little sucker in place. And ironically enough, the skull fits kind of perfectly on top of the candlestick. So you're just going to set this right down on top. You could peel that little piece of paper off of there if you want to. I actually chose to leave mine on because I thought it might help hold mine a little bit better. And then you're just going to hold him into place until it dries. Just kidding. You can set this aside on your desk or on your table and let it dry for a couple hours. Sorry for that funky zoom there. And once it's all done, you have a creepy little accessory for Halloween. And speaking of accessories, I am going to grab one of these Dollar Tree candle holders in the shape of a hand. I love this guy. And then I actually picked up that green tray from Dollar General. It was also $1. I took it outside and spray painted it a flat black just to go with my Halloween theme. I did do 2 coats of this on both sides, and it dried very, very easily. Once everything dried, I took it inside and I took my creepy little hand candle holder there, and I'm just going to put some of this E6000 quick hold on the fingertips, I guess, the parts that are showing white there, on the actual candlestick itself. And I'm kind of doing mine right on the edge here, and I'm doing that because the hand actually fits really well like that. Depending on your tray, you may have to vary it up a little bit. It would also look just as cute perfectly flat on the tray itself. So I'm just going to glue that in place, and then once that's all dry, I am going to go ahead and add another creepy element to my tray in the shape or form of this creepy little black glitter spider, which I love so much because he's plastic and because it's fantastic. I'm just using some of my hot glue on the bottom of his, it's not his feet. What are spiders? Tentacles? What are they? I'm just going to call them his feet. You can correct me in the comments if you want. But I'm going to glue his feet down to the tray, adding a little bit of hot glue onto each one of his feet, and just sticking him right on top of the tray to complement my creepy candle holder tray. And when he is all done, this is what it looks like. There's my skull accessory in the back. I know you were wondering where that went. And as you can see, it makes the perfect little creepy Halloween tray for kiddos and for placing your candy or other sweet treats on. Obviously, if you're concerned about the kids burning themselves on that candle, you could easily put a battery-operated candle in there as well. For my first spooky Halloween DIY, we are going to take 2 of these potion bottles that I picked up at Dollar Tree and also a package of these plastic skulls. For those potion bottles, we're just going to remove the corks from each one of them. So just take a pair of scissors, remove that plastic that's holding that cork top in, and just put those cork pieces aside. Once you've got those all out, you're just going to take some hot glue and you're going to put it on the bottom of the skulls, and then you're going to glue these directly down on top of the cork. Pretty easy, right? I love the way that the bottles looked with the skull, but I wanted to go ahead and age the labels. They were a little too brand new looking for me. So I just took some antiquing wax and just went over the labels kind of with a semi-dry brush, I guess you would say. And then all I'm going to do is just kind of dab it away and wipe it away with a clean paper towel. And then I also went through and I also did the same treatment to the skull heads with that antiquing wax as well. You can see that I'm just kind of dirtying them up. I don't really know how else to say that. I'm making them dirty and using that antiquing wax, and then also just kind of going back through and dabbing that off as well. And when you're all done, you've got two spooky looking potion bottles. Probably one of the easiest DIYs that we will have today. And for my next spooky DIY, we're going to take one of these plastic hands from Dollar Tree. You're also going to grab a glass bowl or a plastic bowl. I grabbed mine at Dollar Tree, and then also a glass candlestick. First thing we did was take the hand and put it palm side down. The reason why we're doing that is because we're going to be cutting a hole in the top of the hand for our candlestick, and you want to make sure that that hand is kind of scooping up, if that makes sense. So go ahead and take your candlestick and just trace around it. I'm using a Sharpie. That way I have a nice thick line that I can trace around with my cutter. And you're simply just going to cut a hole in the hand itself. Now I'm using my tool from Slice. I love this tool. It's a handy tool. It's made with a ceramic blade, so it's actually pretty safe to use because, as you can see here in a few minutes, it's not going to cut me. It has a sharp blade. It definitely cuts through multiple surfaces, but as you can see, it didn't cut my hand, so no spooky Halloween injuries here. And then you can see that the glass candlestick fits perfectly inside that hand, but I'm not going to glue it now. Actually, I'm going to take both of these pieces outside, and we're going to spray paint them black. So that part, I was a bonehead again and didn't film. So, through the magic of television, now they're black. The hand itself, I did tape down those fingers with a little bit of electrical tape just to kind of get the flexibility in those fingers that I was going to need. Now, here I am going to go ahead and add a generous amount of hot glue, and I'm also going to add a generous amount of E6000, and we're just going to glue that hand directly on top of that candlestick, kind of like you see me doing here. Now, again, I used a little bit of my E6000 quick hold and then also some hot glue just to make sure that this hand would stay sitting on top of that candlestick. So I let my hand sit for about 3 hours, and now it's strong enough for me to work with. The bowl is dried as well, so now everything is a nice consistent black color. I used the flat black paint from Rust-Oleum. Now I'm just going to be taking some E6000 and putting it in the palm of that skeleton hand, and you'll see that I'm kind of doing it on the outside. I'm kind of making like an outside ring of this E6000 quick hold, and then in the center I'm going to add some hot glue. Typically when you put hot glue and mix it with the E6000, it causes the E6000 to break down some, so this will actually help hold that hand in place a little quicker, or that bowl rather, in place a little quicker, and then also give it a sufficient amount of time to dry. I also let this sit for about 3 hours before I started the next phase of the project. Now, you could literally leave it like this if you really wanted to, and it certainly would be very cute, but I want that hand to look like it's holding the bowl. So now I'm going to take some E6000 quick hold again, and just place it on each one of the fingers. As much as I do love this glue, I do think this would have probably worked better and faster if I did use some super glue. So that's a tip for you if you want to try and recreate this. Now, you may remember that I bent those fingers forward with some electrical tape before, and the reason why I did that is because I want there to be a lot of flexibility in these fingers as I'm bending them over. So just make sure that your glue has good contact with the hand or the finger itself, and then also against the bowl. And then I'm just going to go around and add my glue onto each one of the fingers, and then glue, or tape rather, the fingers up against the bowl so everything holds nice and strong. You want to make sure that this part stays glued on for sure. And again, I let this dry for probably about 3 hours, leaving that masking tape on there. And after everything is dry, this is what the hand looks like holding the bowl. I'm obsessed. I love it, but I do want to age it just a little bit. So I'm adding my favorite thing, the antiquing wax, onto the hand itself. I left it there for a few seconds and then just kind of slowly wiped everything off. I did this nice and slow because I didn't want the glue to come undone from the hand, but also I'm just making sure that I don't really remove all of it because I do like the way that looks. I think it makes it look like that hand is a dirty old skeleton hand holding that bowl up, which is going to be very, very cool, as you can see here when it is sitting by the front door, filled with candy, just awaiting trick-or-treaters. How cool and creepy is this? And for my last creepy project, I'm going to be making a lantern. I'm taking 2 of these wood plaques that I picked up at Dollar Tree. I love these and they're good and solid. And then when I was at Dollar General, I grabbed 2 packages of these dowel rods. First, I took my mouse sander by Ryobi outside and I did sand down these plaques. I didn't bring my tripod out here, so it's kind of hard for me to sand and show you how this works, but trust me, that sucker is good. This is what the plaques will look like after they're all sanded. I'm going to go ahead and remove that hanging hardware off of the backs of those because you're not going to really need them. And then don't worry, I do remove that sticker or that label in the middle. So now I'm just taking my dowel rods and I'm just gluing them in the corners of one of those wood plaques, kind of like you see here. I'm just adding a generous amount of hot glue in that corner and then just kind of twisting that dowel rod just so I get good glue coverage on all sides of it, I guess. And then once I did that and had all 4 of those in place, I let it sit for about an hour, I would say, so that glue was good and solid. And then I added more glue on the tops of the sticks. At least that's where I started to do it this way. And then I realized that I was being a bonehead and I could just flip this over upside down. So yes, here I am putting some glue on the end of the sticks, thinking that that would be a good idea. And then I realized, oh yeah, I can just flip it over and do it like this. So I gave it the old flipperoo and then just added some glue in the corners and reinforced those sticks that were now on the bottom of the lantern and just again waited for them to dry. And once my glue dried, I took my lantern outside and gave it a good coat of black paint. Then I wanted to build some sides on my lantern to kind of make it look like it was a graveyard. So I had this leftover fencing from a summer project and I basically cut down one centerpiece kind of like so to use as my template. And now I'm going to take my little pink snipper shear things that I grabbed at Dollar Tree in the Crafter Square section, and I'm just going to create 4 of these arches and just cut right through this. It's very cheap plastic. It goes through this very, very easily and takes really minimal effort. So now that I have 4 of those center pieces, I'm just going to start gluing them on the outside of our lantern, kind of like so. I'm literally just kind of fitting them in between, and the tension from the wood is holding them in there with some glue. Now, for this plastic hand, I wanted to create a hand to make it look like it was coming up out of the ground. And I took this hand and I also cut the end of it off, kind of like so. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I'm going to be sticking these little glue sticks, or these glow sticks rather. That would be funny if it was glue sticks. I'm going to take these glow sticks and actually stick them inside of each one of the fingers of my hand. And that, well, not my hand, but this plastic hand. And the reason why I'm doing that is because, as you can see, it lights up the entire hand all the way up through the fingertips, which I think looks super cool and very, very creepy. Now, if you're making your lantern perhaps for Halloween night, or even the month of October, that's still like a month away, you could very easily just reserve your glow sticks and not do this step. But, you know, for the magic of TV, I wanted to show you guys. But look how amazing it looks. And then I'm just taking some hot glue, and I did glue my hand down for the purpose of the video. But again, it's hot glue, so it will come out pretty easily. Now for around the hand, I am going to take some of the Spanish moss that I had, and I'm just going to kind of fill in around the base of the hand, just to kind of give it that creepy look, like this is, again, kind of coming up out of the ground. And then I do go through and I just add some Dollar Tree florals. My Dollar Tree didn't have a whole lot of florals just yet for Halloween, so I kind of settled for the purple and the black variety. But again, it worked out fine. I don't despise those colors at all. In fact, I think they're kind of cool looking. And I am just literally going to start placing them kind of all around in the cemetery part of it. Now, what I think is super cool is that they do come with these little spiders and little bats and little pieces, which I think are really, really amazing and a lot of fun. Once everything was done, then I also took to the top of my lantern and just added some extra floral treatments on top, just to kind of continue that beautiful purple, creepy black color that you see there on the top. And this is what it looks like when everything is complete. I love the way this looks. I especially love the way that hand looks. And this is what it looks like with the lights dimmed. Again, super creepy. And I love the way those glow sticks just highlight each one of those fingers. Again, you can make this as creepy or as tame as you like. I think this is a good middle ground. All right, everybody, let me know in the comments what you thought. I loved some of these projects. I definitely use some of these still in my Halloween decor now. I would love to know, though, which ones are your favorites. Until next time, I will see you later. All right, guys, bye-bye.